southernmost tip of India, the final frontier at sea. We are in the middle of the Indian Ocean, where the Indian Navy stands guard against expansionist bullies lurking in these waters. On the map of India, this is where we are. Deep south on Kamrota Island, where INS Inskardeep is located. At INS Inskardeep, 27-year-old Lieutenant Navjot Kaur is the logistics officer. The first woman to be posted at this forward operating base since it was commissioned some 47 years ago. She's on firing practice today, a monthly ritual in the Navy. Handling this MMG is almost as challenging as her core job, logistics. Lieutenant Navjot's unit, INS Inskardeep, is the last refueling stop for Indian ships in the Indian Ocean region. All ships that are deployed for patrolling and surveillance off the Malacca Strait are supported by this base. She and her team arrange everything from fuel to rations to day-to-day running items for warships and surveillance helicopters that patrol these waters.
My father was in the Indian Army. He retired after 30 years of service in Bengal Engineers. So I grew up listening to his stories. I was always fascinated to be a part of the armed forces one day. And in 2008, as a part of school visit, I visited the decommissioned INS Vikrant, the aircraft carrier. And I was amazed by the mighty aircraft carrier, and I dreamed that one day I would also join the Navy and be a part of a ship and serve the country.
INS Vikrant, now decommissioned, was India's first aircraft carrier which played a crucial role in the 1971 war. The Navy hadn't put women on warships for a long time, saying ships and submarines don't have space for separate sleeping and washroom facilities for them. But that is slowly changing with new ships being commissioned. From INS Inskardeep, we are now headed to INS Baz, which is in Campbell Bay, some 62 nautical miles from here. It is the southernmost naval aviation base in India. After that, there's just the ocean. Campbell Bay is south of INS Inskardeep in the Andaman Sea. Just to put things in perspective, Indonesia is way closer from here than the Indian mainland. In this far-off island, in the back of beyond, is where India's southernmost aviation base, INS Baz, is located. Lieutenant Karishma Dilip Shiravale, the duty officer today, knows a thing or two about making an entrance. She has been here all of 2 months and knows she needs to leave the right impression. She comes from Satara in Maharashtra, where there is no sea, but it does have a rich tradition of sending men into the armed forces.
My father is retired from Army. He was with AOC. I was more inclined towards Navy because whenever I used to see warships and exercises of Navy, the way it used to maneuver and splashing water, it used to fire, that fascinated me a lot. And naval uniform was another attraction since my childhood till date, and that would be right if I say that I have joined Navy to earn this uniform.
Lieutenant Karishma is a national level archer. She joined the Navy 3 years ago in the logistics branch and narrowly escaped her father's marriage plans for her.
So I will send someone to Force office. Whilst my father was hunting for potential grooms, I decided to apply for direct entry Navy.
Lieutenant Karishma's first posting was in a base depot ship for submarines. The submarine arm is not open to women, but some boundaries are being stretched. Lieutenant Karishma is the first woman to be deputed to INS Bars since it was commissioned in 2012. Now, this is where Dorniers and helicopters like this Mi-17 that keep a watch over this part of the Indian Ocean region fuel up. To arrange for fuel or water till Campbell Bay itself is the biggest challenge, says Lieutenant Karishma.
Getting things here is not an easy task. When I was traveling here, that time itself I gauged that this won't be an easy task because it took me almost a month to reach here.
INS Bars is a strategic airbase for multiple reasons. One of the reasons is something called the 6-degree channel. The 6-degree channel is the shipping lane from which 60% of the world's trade passes. INS Bars is located at 7 degrees, which means it is 100 kilometers away from the world's busiest shipping lanes. Airborne surveillance from here is vital not just for India's national security, but also for the security of its trade.
A large part of the maritime surveillance heavy lifting is done by this old boy based out of INS Rajali in Chennai. The P-8I long-range Maritime Reconnaissance aircraft. Born in America, these aircrafts carry weapons and technology that can detect and destroy submarines. And who fires these weapons? These observers. Women in combat roles has been a long, hard and unending discussion. But the mission controller of this P-8I, Lieutenant Commander Priya Chhetri, proudly says the Navy got there first.
As an observer carrying out duty of mission controller, I am the only person fully qualified and trained to fire a weapon when the situation arises. I can fully vouch for it that carrying out duty of an observer has made me a woman in combat while serving on this aircraft. I am extremely proud of what I am doing, as this aircraft and the squadron has given me an opportunity to fulfill my dream, that to serve my country.
Inside the mission control, preparations are underway for a sortie over an undisclosed location at sea. The crew left home at 4 in the morning. For Lieutenant Sarika Negi, that meant leaving her 1.5-year-old behind for the entire day.
Today in the morning I got up at 4 o'clock and I left for the sortie. At the same time, my kiddo, who is 1.5 years old, she also got up because she was knowing that my mom is going for the mission. So at that point of time, I just told my husband that now it's your time to catch up with the baby.
Submarines work on the theory of stealth. They are very quiet machines, and detecting them in this vast ocean is like finding a needle in a haystack. The acoustic signature means looking for the sound emitted by the submarine, which could be as deep as 1,000 feet. Lieutenant Dimple Arneja is just out of training and is learning the ways of the mighty Poseidon. She's here fulfilling her mother's dream.
I am here to fulfill 2 dreams actually. One of my mother and second is mine. When I was young, I was told about her story. I was told that she wanted to join and she could not because of family restrictions. And I think I was in class 2 or 3, and I told that I'll be wearing a uniform one day.
At age 28, Dimple has flown on all 3 fixed platforms of the Indian Navy. The Dornier, the IL-38, and its successor, the P-8I. Navy has also opened its doors to women observers in the helicopter stream, which means Lieutenant Kumudni Tyagi and Sub-Lieutenant Reeti Singh will be the first women to be deployed on warships from which these helicopters operate.
I'm Lieutenant Commander Nikita Kashyap, hailing from Ambala, Haryana. I joined the Indian Navy in June 2015 as a Naval Constructor Officer with specialization of BTech Civil Engineering.
At the Naval Dockyard in Visakhapatnam, Lieutenant Commander Nikita Kashyap is a legend. Soft-spoken and petite, the 28-year-old is nothing like the burly dockmasters the base has seen over the last 50 years. With 36 dockings in 2 years here, Lieutenant Commander Kashyap has not just entered the record books, but also docked the hull right through the glass ceiling. Docking is an art that requires a high degree of technical skill to get a ship or a submarine carrying sophisticated weapons to a dockyard. Does it get tough to get sea-hardened sailors to follow her command?
One must be prepared to work hard, staying till early morning during docking operations, bearing the scorching sun and at times heavy rainfall. And then the workforce, whether men or women, will definitely follow your orders with respect. I would like to acknowledge the fact that we have been commissioned by the President of India as naval officers, not as a lady or male officer.
At INS Utkrosh in Port Blair, Lieutenant Commander Parul Pratap is prepping for her sortie. She has completed 1,200 hours of flying in her 5-year career. The patch on her shoulder will tell you that. Parul is an observer in the Dornier aircraft, which is way simpler and smaller compared to the P-8I. The Navy has a strong aviation wing, but ultimately the Navy is about ships. And that is where Lieutenant Commander Pratap wants to ultimately be. A domain so far exclusive to men.
I have been part of the aviation arm for over 5 years now, and having flown 1,200 hours on Dornier, I would like to graduate and move on to ships. As it's rightly said that the seas don't discriminate between men and women, and I think women will make great sailors. So I would like to go on board ships and maybe go ahead with adventurous life on board ship.
On board INS Vikramaditya, India's mighty aircraft carrier, the change is already visible. Priyanka Chaudhary is the logistics officer of the Navy's flagship and commands sailors and officers who are all men. She is the first batch of 4 women on board warships. She says it's an absolute privilege being the first and knows she will not be the last.
It gives you an added responsibility when you are posted on board as a first women officer, where you have to set pace for the forthcoming generations who are going to join aircraft carrier or ships.
बहुत बढ़िया, बहुत बढ़िया. हाथ को घुमा. Deliver. 6, 7.
So has the psychological barrier of putting women on warships, working and playing alongside men, been crossed?
From the ab initio training itself, both men and women are being trained together. Therefore, I don't think there was a psychological barrier. However, as far as the logistics barrier is concerned, this issue is being addressed in the new generation ships which are being commissioned into the Indian Navy to cater for the physiological needs for women on board.
In a landmark judgment in 2020, the Supreme Court ruled that all three services need to give permanent commission to women. That gender cannot be a reason why women should retire after 10 or 14 years. It also asked the armed forces to train women for leadership roles. At the Met Department at INS Utkrosh, Lieutenant Commander Surabhi Dangi is plotting the weather for incoming and outgoing military and civilian aircraft. 7 years into service, she would have retired in the next 3 years had the ruling not come.
I've already completed 7 years into the Navy, and I always had that in back of my mind that already completed 7 years and 3 more to go, because 10 years is the one which I serve as a short service officer. So now when I get the option of a permanent commission, it's actually a relief for me, because I've always wanted to be in the forces, and it's actually a very good news for me, very relief for all the short service commissioned officers, that we have an option that we can continue further on.
Amongst the three services, the Navy inducts the maximum number of women in its ranks, some 6.5%. The Air Force has barely 1.08%, and the Army, at the bottom of the list, has less than 0.5% of women in its ranks. The asymmetrical war for a gender-neutral armed force is going to be a long one.